Out of nowhere, it's over. No warning, no drama, no messy headlines, just silence. 1 minute, everything between Larsa Pippen and Jeff Coby looked smooth, effortless, even promising. And then suddenly, it all disappeared. But here's the part that caught everyone off guard. This breakup didn't just happen. It actually went down weeks ago, completely under the radar. No public fallout. No emotional posts. Not even a hint that something was wrong. So, what really happened behind the scenes? And how does a relationship that looked this solid just end without a trace? Because the more you look into it, the more it starts to feel like there's a lot we didn't see coming. Here's where things get even more unexpected. This didn't just happen overnight. Reports say the breakup actually went down about a month ago, long before anyone even realized something was off. While fans were still assuming everything was fine, the relationship had already quietly ended behind the scenes. No announcement. No dramatic unfollow spree. Nothing. And what's even more telling? There's reportedly no connection left between them at all. No texting, no checking in, just a complete cutoff. It's like things didn't just fade, they were shut down completely. For a couple that seemed so comfortable and publicly aligned, that kind of clean break feels unusual. Almost like whatever happened, it was final. And that raises a bigger question. How does something that looked this steady fall apart so quietly? Because when you go back and look at how it all started, it makes the situation even harder to understand. What makes this whole situation even more confusing is how solid everything looked at the start. Larsa and Jeff didn't ease into things, they clicked fast. The two first met at a party in early 2025, and almost instantly, there was a spark. Within months, they weren't just dating quietly, they were stepping out together, making things official with a red carpet appearance that had people talking. And from the outside, it all felt effortless. Jeff openly spoke highly of Larsa, even calling her one of the best humans he'd ever met. That's not something you say lightly, and it gave the impression that this wasn't just a casual situation. Larsa, on the other hand, described their relationship as fun, easy, and emotionally secure. No drama, no tension, just a smooth connection that seemed to work. Everything about it gave off that this might actually last energy. But sometimes, what looks calm and perfect on the surface can be hiding something much more complicated underneath. And when people started looking closer, a different picture slowly began to form. But here's where the story starts to shift. Behind all the easy and secure talk, reports say the relationship had simply run its course. And that phrase might sound casual, but it usually points to something deeper. Because when a relationship isn't moving forward, it often means it's stuck. There were no signs of a next step. No talk of long-term plans, no big milestones, nothing that suggested things were evolving beyond that early excitement phase. And while everything looked smooth on the outside, it may have also been standing still. Some fans have started to speculate that the connection may have peaked too early, burning bright at the beginning, but slowly losing momentum over time. Others think there could have been differences in what each of them wanted moving forward. Of course, nothing has been confirmed publicly, but the silence itself is what's raising eyebrows. Because when something ends this quietly, it often means the issues weren't sudden, they were building up in the background. And if you've followed Larsa's dating life before, this kind of pattern might feel strangely familiar. And that's where things start to feel a little familiar. Because this isn't the first time Larsa's relationships have followed a similar path, starting strong, staying in the spotlight, and then quietly fading out. Before Jeff, there was Marcus Jordan. Their relationship had everyone talking, not just because of who they were, but because of the history tied to their families. It was on and off, full of speculation and constantly under public scrutiny. 1 minute they were together, the next it seemed uncertain, and eventually, it ended for good. And if you go even further back, her marriage to Scottie Pippen tells a completely different story. That was long-term, nearly 2 decades, built on a very different kind of foundation. But even that eventually came to an end. So now, looking at the bigger picture, there's a noticeable contrast. A long, stable chapter, followed by shorter, more public relationships that seem to move fast and end just as quickly. Some people believe it's just coincidence. Others think it points to a pattern in how these relationships play out. Either way, it raises a bigger question. Is it just about timing, or is there something deeper behind why things don't seem to last? And when you zoom out for a second, this starts to look less like a one-off situation and more like a pattern. Larsa's relationships tend to begin with a lot of attention and strong momentum. There's chemistry, public appearances, and that sense that things are moving quickly in the right direction. But then, somewhere along the way, that momentum seems to stall. Take her relationship with Marcus Jordan. It wasn't just high profile, it was constantly in the spotlight, with fans analyzing every move. They went back and forth, breaking up and reconnecting, which kept people guessing the entire time. And even though it looked intense, it ultimately didn't stick. Then there's her marriage to Scottie Pippen, a completely different chapter. That relationship lasted nearly 2 decades, built on long-term commitment rather than fast-paced public attention. But even that eventually came to an end, closing a major part of her life. Now compare that to her more recent relationships. They start quickly, feel exciting, but don't seem to transition into something deeper over time. Of course, no two relationships are the same. But some fans have pointed out that there may be a cycle, where things peak early, then slowly lose direction. And if that's the case, it makes this latest breakup feel less surprising and a lot more predictable. But the timing of this one? That's where things get even more interesting. But here's where things start to raise even more questions: the timing. This breakup didn't just happen quietly, it happened at a moment when almost no one would notice. With the Real Housewives of Miami currently on pause, there were no cameras rolling, no episodes capturing the fallout, and no public storyline unfolding in real time. And that's unusual. Because typically, moments like this, especially involving someone as high-profile as Larsa, don't stay hidden for long. They play out publicly, sometimes even becoming part of the narrative. But this time? Nothing. Some fans online have started to wonder if the timing played a role. Not in a dramatic or calculated way, but more in the sense that it allowed everything to end without outside pressure, without headlines spiraling out of control. Of course, that's just speculation. There's no confirmation of anything beyond what's been reported. Still, the fact that it all happened off camera makes this breakup feel even more distant, like it was over before anyone had the chance to even react. And what happened after the split only adds to that feeling. Because once it ended, it really ended. There's reportedly no communication between Larsa and Jeff at all. No casual check-ins, no friendly posts, no signs of staying connected in any way. Just silence. And in today's world, that kind of complete disconnect stands out. Most breakups, especially public ones, leave behind some trace. A comment, a like, a subtle interaction. Something. But here, nothing. It's as if both of them closed that chapter and walked away without looking back. And sometimes, that kind of silence speaks louder than any public statement ever could. It suggests that whatever led to the breakup wasn't messy, it was final. Which makes people wonder, was this something that slowly faded, or something they both quietly agreed to end? Either way, it leaves Larsa in a very familiar position. Now, Larsa Pippen is officially single again. And if there's one thing history shows, it's that her dating life never stays out of the spotlight for long. Whether it's new connections, surprise appearances, or unexpected pairings, people always seem to be watching what comes next. Some fans believe she'll take time for herself after this. Others think it won't be long before she's linked to someone new. But one thing's for sure, any move she makes next will be noticed. Because at this point, it's not just about who she dates. It's about the pattern people think they're seeing. And that's what makes this moment feel less like an ending and more like the setup for whatever comes next. So when you put it all together, this breakup feels different. Not because of what happened, but because of how quietly it all unfolded. A relationship that looked smooth, easy, and promising ended without drama, without noise, and without explanation beyond a simple phrase: it ran its course. But did it really just run its course? Or was there more going on behind the scenes that never made it to the surface? That's the question people are still asking. Because sometimes, the relationships that seem the most effortless are the ones hiding the most unanswered questions. And in this case, the silence might be the biggest clue of all.